Hey guys, this is an overview of our new topic, which is feudalism. So as we go through, this is just to kind of discuss some of the key points of feudalism. First one we're looking at is, let's imagine we have a section of land here, like in our green circle. Well, we have to come up with a way to govern this after the fall of the Roman Empire. The way that they do this is by establishing kings, right? So the king is the head honcho, the number one guy in charge. We'll have a nice sweet crown for that. And then under the king, we have what's called a vassal. Right, so a vassal is someone who would control land on behalf of the king. He would run it for them, right? So if we divide our green area up into some smaller areas, these are called fiefs, and they're run by vassals. Now, under vassals, we have lords who would help control the fief on behalf of the vassal. And then under the lords, we have peasants, right? Peasants and serfs. These are the guys that do all of the actual work. So let's take a look at the center. If we divide a fief into smaller parts, this would be run by lords, then each one would be controlled by a different lord, and we've represented that with a different color. Right, and the point of this is to help break down a huge area into more manageable chunks, right, with the king, vassals, lords, peasants, and serfs. So at the top of our feudalistic pyramid, we have the king and the church. So the king is the guy that, sort of owns all the land that's given to these vassals and lords. And then you have the church that says, hey, God says you should follow the king, right? And everybody says, yay, this is great. So under the king and the church, we have our upper nobles. These are the people who report directly to the king, and they're very powerful because they own the large fiefs, the large tracts of land. Under the upper nobles, we have lower nobles. These would be like your lords and your knights. These are the people who are in the sort of day-to-day management of the fief, making sure that grain is being harvested, making sure the peasants aren't revolting, making sure that, they aren't being educated, making sure they aren't having independent thought, because that goes in conflict with the king. And then under the lower knights, or the lower nobles and knights, we have peasants, right? These are your farmers. These are the people who are responsible for the majority of what the fief produces. And then under them, you have the serfs, right? The serfs are essentially like slaves, right? They're not slaves because they're not owned, but they aren't able to leave the fief without permission, right? And they exist essentially to work, right? So this is the feudalistic pyramid. Now, you can sort of break this further down into two parts. At the bottom, you have those that do all the work, right? These are your peasants and serfs. And then above them, you have those who protect the workers, right? This is the king, the nobles, the knights, and this is like a symbiotic relationship. Without the serfs producing food and grain and keeping everything running, everybody dies. And without the knights and the nobles to protect the workers, then they're just taken over and invaded from an outside force. So this is the sort of symbiotic relationship between peasants, serfs, and the upper nobility, right? And this is how they work together in basic feudalism. So to recap, feudalism is both political and social. It's political because it's a government, and it's social because it's class-based. You have a king, you have nobles, right? And it's almost impossible for a serf to become a peasant to become a noble, and so on, right? And it breaks down into those that do the work and those that protect the workers.